Welcome once again to the Bills and Bones podcast. I'm Gio, and I'm here as always with my co-host PC. We started Bills and Bones to talk football for the fans with a focus on PC's team, the Buffalo Bills, and my team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Today we are talking Raiders and Chiefs and Bills and Seahawks. This show is brought to you by It Never Happened Makeup Supply. If you've had a really rough day, or maybe you're just in an Irish argument, It Never Happened can make you look okay the next day.
Oh, Jesus. Always got to take shots at the Irishman.
I thought you would like that, yeah.
So how are you, G? Let's get this rocking, baby.
Yeah, let's talk about the two very contrasting games that we had this week. We'll start with a high point. We'll start with the Buffalo Bills here.
Yeah, any time to get a win on the road in the NFL is huge, but to go to Seattle and do it after all of the penalties, 13 penalties I might add for 85 yards, even those penalties couldn't even slow us down. Big win, basically a blowout. They were in control throughout the entire game. If you go back and you look, I think the biggest play of the game, well, there were two, but the biggest play of the game was when the Bills were able to stop them on fourth down at the goal line after Josh had thrown the interception, and then also the huge penalty on the Seahawks at the end of the first half when we had a formation penalty coming on us. Josh was trying to throw it away just to get the field goal team out there to kick it and got blasted by one of the Seahawks defensive linemen, giving us 15 yards and ultimately allowing Josh to hit Kincaid for the touchdown and give us a big 14-3 lead at half. I feel like the defense was fantastic throughout. We put tons of pressure on Coleman the entire day. And just watching Josh take advantage of some of the mismatches that were out there with Shakir and also with Coleman. Keon Coleman, probably the biggest game of his life so far, certainly as a professional. Keon against Tyreek Woolen, who is supposed to be one of the better defenders in the NFL, had some impressive plays, huge touchdown. But my favorite play of the day is when Keon Coleman put Josh Jobe into the bench with his block, just knocking his ass down and basically starting a huge fight. He didn't even know he did anything wrong. He thought he was doing what he was supposed to do, and then you can see some of the guys on the sideline for the Bills going absolutely crazy when he was able to make that block and stuff that guy into the bench. Defense was excellent against the run. You know, they really couldn't get anything going there. Obviously, you could see that not having Metcalf was
when your quarterback has the most rushing yards for your team at 16, then I would say the running game is effectively shut down. I mean, on the other side of the ball, you had James Cook there with 111 rushing yards that game. So you guys dominated on the run for sure.
And that, a lot of Cook's action was in the second half. You know, the Bills had a big lead and were able to kind of lean on the run and do what they needed to do. The defense just stuffed them at the line of scrimmage throughout, causing Geno to do exactly what McDermott knew he was going to have to do, and that was to throw those short passes over the middle where, you know, the guy's getting 6 yards, but the clock's still running when you have a big lead. That's the type of game that, you know, if the Bills are in that situation where they have a big lead and they can just bring pressure and rely on that nickel and dime defense, they're just going to absolutely chew you up, especially a guy like Geno, who McDermott has quite a bit of experience playing against. And also, you know, one of the things that hasn't really been talked about, and it will be this week now, is Bills fans have been infiltrating stadiums for years, but to go out to Seattle and take that place over, which, you know, years you talk about how they're the 12th man and they got their big 12 flag and all that. Save it, because Bills Mafia proved that they are the best fan base in the NFL. And even in some of the press conferences after the game, Geno said that he felt like he was on the road when he had the ball in a lot of those situations. I mean, I've been watching games a long time, and when you can really tell when an opposing fan base is in another stadium, and when Coleman caught that touchdown, that place erupted, and you knew right away that the Bills Mafia had completely taken over Seattle, and obviously had a great time in that second half celebrating what was going to be a blowout. W for
One of the things that surprised me was the physicality back and forth. I mean, you had Hall kind of start off things there with that hard hit on Josh there towards the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And I think after that was established, it was on after that. I mean, you don't hit Allen like that and not get a response from the Bills.
There's no secret that the Bills are not liked by many teams in the NFL. We fought against Arizona. We fought against the Jets. We fought against Tennessee. We fought this week. There's always that chippiness. And when you have a team like ours that, a lot of the, trash talkers and hard asses are more on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Dion, and then the offensive line too. You will see after plays, dudes are ready to rub it in their face. So there's a lot of trash talking going on throughout the game. You can see it. Josh is one of the most well-known for doing it throughout the league. So, yes, you are going to get guys that are going to get chippy. And when dudes get laid out and you have guys making plays like that, you're definitely just going to have a lot more fun when you're winning and doing that. I mean, that's the big thing, G. When you're winning in the way that in the fashion the Bills have in the last 3 weeks, you're going to have guys that are sick of it. The defense is getting to your quarterback, and we're running the ball down teams' throats. That's going to piss a lot of people off, and it certainly did again this week.
Yeah, I mean, talking Josh numbers, 24 for 34, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I guess he finally broke his interception streak there, but I mean, it's nice to break the interception when it's 31-10. Yeah. It's a good time to break that interception streak, I suppose.
Well,
it didn't really do anything to you.
He had it early, and obviously, I'm not going to make any excuses, but Cooper slipped out of that route. That's one thing too that really wasn't talked about going into that game was the possibility of the weather being a factor. Well, guess what? The weather was a huge factor, and especially early on. Josh had some issues with ball control. They certainly did. They had the fumble down at the goal line where, that snap that went back 30 yards. That was huge for us, too. I mean, that was another big moment in the game that you thought they were going to have a touchdown, and, they had to run that field goal kicker out there later on in the series. So weather played a huge factor, but for us, there weren't many drops. Keon had one. I think there was a couple other, but for the most part, most of Josh's incompletions were him throwing the ball away just to avoid the sack. So I love games like that. I'll take 1 interception if we're beating teams by 21 points any day of the week.
Yeah.
His stats will show at the end of the season that he's done a great job to take care of the ball and do what he needs to do.
I had a chance to pick up Shakir for fantasy this week, and I'm like, well, he hasn't really done that much, I don't need him, this week, and then he goes out there and gets 107 yards. Davis was surprising to me as far as I kind of thought Ray Davis was going to play a little bit more of an active role. I mean, he got 29 yards there,
yeah.
And he looked good for those. I mean, he looked really good out there. I mean, I love running backs. Over wide receivers and everything else. Running backs and tight ends to me are really great to watch. And I thought Ray Davis looked great. I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more of a workload split, but I kind of feel like what happened is if Cook is cooking, then let him do his thing. I mean, it's like a winning streak. I mean, if he's on a hot streak, then let him be on the hot streak.
That's exactly what was going on, G. I mean, how many yards did he get after contact? How many yards did he get after a guy got his hands on him? And, that's usually the Ray Davis, that's his identity. He's running guys over. He's getting the extra yards after contact. But when you have that wet field and wet jerseys, I think guys like Cook are going to shine because he's so elusive and slippery, even when it's not wet, that he's going to be able to get a lot of those extra yards. And that may be a very good thing for us when there's snow on the ground later in the year in playoff situations. A guy like Cook who's making guys miss and getting by them after they get their hands on them, that's a really good combination to have.
It really was. Watching the game, everything, seemed on. I know, there's been a little bit of flack, oh, it's just the Seahawks, so what, 31-10. I don't think that Seahawks are that team that you can say, so what, to trouncing them. I mean, if you beat them by 2 points, then okay, maybe you can say a little bit, so what. But they're not a team that you beat 31-10 and be able to say that. I mean, you guys had to earn that win. I thought it was a good win.
Well, they were 3-0 to start the season, a lot like us. Then they hit the wall and had to play against, some tougher teams, but not like us. After, we took our licks and got whooped by Baltimore and lost to Houston, they were able to bounce back. Seattle has not been able to do that yet. Injuries are killing them. They needed Metcalf. Metcalf is a huge part of what they've got going on over there.
Yeah.
And again, when you hit a team like the Bills, a buzzsaw that's got everything clicking, you have a shitty weather day and you get some penalties that really
Yeah, but
screw you.
we say everything's clicking, but at the beginning of the season, that's not what people said was going to happen with the Bills. Like the fact that everything is clicking.
Some people did, buddy. Some people did.
The fact that everything clicking is not because like these guys have been around for 4 years and now we're settled in. These players took to it quick, developed well, all those kind of things. So now we can say, well, the Bills are all clicking, blah, blah, blah. But that was not what you walked into, for the season. That's not what the prediction
and again,
was.
I'm going to go back to what we were just talking about earlier. A lot of the veterans on our team are guys that are in, those tough guy positions, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. You got Oliver, you've got Deion Dawkins. Those are the big trash talkers, the tough guys. Those are the ones that are setting the pace. Those are the ones that, are saying basically, I told you, once we figure this out, once this offense and these young guys start to figure out, and don't forget, Amari Cooper obviously was humongous. They were shifting towards him.
I like watching him out. Like I said that last week. I really like Amari Cooper. I mean, he didn't really do tons for you this
Coleman
game, but I like to see him out there.
Had those one-on-one matchups with Woolen because they were shading Cooper, and that's great. Because you know what? Next week, Miami might shade Coleman, and then Cooper will have the one-on-one. That's the great thing about, even when Diggs was here. I mean, I could talk about it all day long. Having a guy like Diggs or an Amari Cooper is going to make your defense do things that are going to allow other guys to make plays, and Coleman was able to do that against an all-pro player that is supposed to shut him down. Well, guess what? He wasn't able to do it. I mean, you look at those stats.
That definitely did not happen.
70 yards, 5 catches, and a touchdown for a rookie. I'll take every goddamn day of the week, and he was awesome. And again, if it was a closer game, who knows? Josh may have been going to him even more, but we relied on the run. We're coming into our own. They're licking their chops this week, having Tua come back to Buffalo, and they've got 6 wins. They've got the same amount of wins as all the other teams in the entire division. 4 games up on everybody. We may lock up the East by Thanksgiving, and like you said, everybody was thinking that it was going to take a while for them to figure out. Well, guess the fuck what? Here we are. We beat Miami, go into Indy and win there. We could have the Chiefs rolling in here 8-2, and that would be exactly what the doctor ordered for all Bills fans.
And in that game, you guys had that key to success, which is every quarter you put up points. I mean, to define a good team or a team that's going to be around every game, if you can put up points every single quarter, and not 3 points, but at least a touchdown every quarter, and you put up 10 in the third there, that's the sign of a team that is gelling and is doing what they need to be doing, and will always be in the game if you can do that.
Well, look, G2, another thing that will get lost because it was so impressive. We get them 3 and out to start the game. They punt it down. The Bills go 86 yards and score a touchdown. 5 penalties on that drive, 5, and they still were able to overcome it and score. I mean, talk about, that's the stuff the great teams always do, is they overcome those penalties. They get those 3rd and longs. They get a penalty that can help them out, whatever it may be. That's the difference a lot of times between those good teams, is when they can, push through the mistakes that they make and be able to get a win on the other side.
So you talked a little bit about going into the Miami game. Any concerns or anything that we got to see?
I mean, of course, obviously they have a dynamic offense when Tua's on his mark and when he has his weapons. Guado and Hill will be there this week. In the past, one of them have been missing or have been off the field quite a bit. So prepared for that. Terrell Bernard, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with his ankle. He wasn't able to go. It's always good to have 43 in there because he is your captain. He is calling plays, and he knows a lot of times what Miami is trying to do. Having him back would be fantastic. Also, Von's back this week. His 4 games are up, so you got another pass rush to be able to help. But Bills coming home to play Miami after the stretch that they've just gone on. Dolphins losing at home to Arizona on the last play of the game. I mean, we obviously know that they're going to come in here desperate and throw us their biggest punch. But if they continue to do, and they being the Bills, continue to do what they're capable of doing and continue to just take advantage of the weaknesses and the mismatches that the other teams present, they're going to be fine. I know they're big favorites this week, and they will be, and they should be. But it's a divisional game. It's huge. You need it. You get it, and you could be looking at an even bigger lead in a division that you've owned for years and will probably be able to wrap up earlier than you have in this stretch of owning that division. So take care of your business, stay healthy, make the plays, don't fall into any of the bullshit trash talking that's going on. Get your lead before you start to do that, and I think that they'll be fine.
I always love the Bills Dolphins games. I feel like the rivalry kind of went away for a couple of years there, like compared to back in like the 90s or so when when things were pretty heated.
Well, Marino
so I'm kind of glad it's back.
Was always a big deal, and they had some guys that we hated in the 90s. I think Pops and I talked a little about it when we had him on the show. There was a guy named Brian Cox who literally walked into the stadium giving the double birds to the entire fans as he was walking in. So, like, they had another guy named Louis Oliver who was a safety who made big plays against the Bills back in the 90s, too. There were some even playoff games. I always bust your balls about the 51-3, but the week before we got to that AFC Championship to play the Raiders, the Bills beat the Dolphins. In a memorable playoff game. That again, I went to Greg and I went to the game with my brother and watched it. It was awesome. So yeah, you're right. There hasn't been much of that, but since Josh showed up and basically has been their daddy since he walked into the league, this new rivalry that we have with them is anything but. If you look at the record over Josh's career, I think they've only had 2 wins against us, and none of them were up here. So it's going to be fun. It's always rocking out there. This weekend, the team just being in the excellent place that they are right now, fans are going to be excited, and they're going to be very excited to go in there and cheer on their squad against a Miami team that's been against it this year. But, like I said, Tua is back, so who knows what that means. A lot of people think he shouldn't be playing at all, and sometimes I agree with it, but you can't.
I mean,
teach an
if
old
you're a grown man and that's what you choose to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm positive that as everyone like brings up the risks. I mean, he knows the risks. He's been told the risks by by probably his own teammates. He's been told the risks of what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's gotten phone calls about those risks. I'm sure of it.
And he won't wear the crown.
And he's making
either.
that choice. Yeah.
He's not going to wear the crown. I mean, and everybody is like, well, why wouldn't you? And he's like, well, why would I? So, I mean, his attitude has not changed. He is a warrior. He's going to go out there and do what he's going to do. But make no mistake about it, this team has no mercy, and they will come after him like they always have. And hopefully, I don't see.
Then they'll start a GoFundMe for him after the game.
Again, we need a second one. And I mean, I don't want to joke about it, but the dude has been laid out by this football team, and I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like you have a family and everything else. You know what I mean? Like at some point, you gotta think besides football. I mean, I don't know.
He's got a lot
like
of
I said, he's a grown
money,
man.
Dude. He's got a lot of guaranteed money. He could walk away and be a millionaire and go in the booth or do whatever he wanted to do. Oh, and another thing, too, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Milano coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if they have him start practicing after this week, because I'm not saying that he's going to play in that Chiefs game, but after the Chiefs game is our bye, and that's when we go out to that's when San Francisco comes in here for that Monday night game. I wouldn't be surprised if Milano was back for that. So, a lot of good things.
Speaking of the booth, what did you think about Tom in the booth? I thought he had some really nice things to say about when he used to play the Bills and stuff. I was actually
not only that,
kind of impressed.
Is there a bigger Josh Allen fan in the
I know
than Brady? It was kind of bizarre. As a Bills fan, you obviously hate him, and you always will. But listening to him talk, it's funny. I talked to my wife about it, and you could just tell, like, Josh and Brady like each other. You could tell they do. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago they did that celebrity golf thing where it was Brady and Manning against, or Brady and Rodgers against Josh and Mahomes in like a golf match, and the way that they were just interacting with each other, you could tell that there was something there, and it continues to this day.
Well, I don't know how you can be a quarterback and not respect Brady. I mean, especially Josh. Josh grew up watching Brady. Like, I mean, we all hate him because he's that good. You know, like he's not a bad person. I mean, he's actually a fairly good person. We hate him because that's what happens when you're that good. Is
Sure.
you have to be hated.
Of
You just
course.
have to
And
be.
look, there's documentation of Josh being a Brady fan. I mean, he's got jersey of him when he's in high school. Like he's a fan. They're from the same neck of the woods, you know, out there in California. As a quarterback, of course you're going to look up to a dude like Brady coming up. So I mean, I get it, and it's great to see that the greatest quarterback to ever play the game recognizes that we've got a great one here in Buffalo, and hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, he can learn a little bit from him and take that and get us to the next level. And it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch him interact with any, you know, interview or whatever. But when it's him and Brady, it's he seems as relaxed as he can be.
So you also had another big game going on within your division there.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Patriots and Jets?
Nothing surprises me. It's clear that it wasn't Robert Saleh that was the problem. It's Aaron
Yep.
Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers. You
Yeah.
know, they had one of the best defenses in the league. They had the best. Their coach was one of the best defensive coaches in the league that they got rid of. So then they take the defensive coordinator and throw him into the head coach position, and now your defense looks terrible. So I don't know if Devontae is second guessing his idea of going there and saving the world. I would assume.
I
that
mean,
he
we're not
probably
winning
is now.
either. We're not winning either. It's not like we're winning and he's losing. We're still both losing, but whatever.
What'll be interesting is, are the Jets going to pull off the craziness of possibly trading him again before the deadline to get themselves some draft picks and some collateral for him, or are they going to let him stew with Aaron Rodgers and, you know, become losers together? I don't know what they're going to do, but if I'm Adams,
I don't know.
I would want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible, and I guarantee you he ain't the only one, because it is a train wreck.
I don't know if he can
wreck.
though, because like you doubled down on going to the Jets. Like we traded you to a team that, you know, did not benefit us as much as it could have, you know, because you wanted to go to the Jets and, you know, you and Rodgers are butt buddies, all those kind of things. You burned the nation, you know, now people in Raider Nation want to protest Taco Bell. I mean, like you burned the nation, you know, you went over to Jets and you're in the same freaking spot. You're losing to the freaking Patriots. And the only reason why that was a close game or like a good game to watch was because they're both at the same level. It's not that it was like a really good game. It's just if you're watching two rival high school teams play, then it looks like a really good game. And to me,
And
we're
get
watching
to play
them
those
play.
teams three more times. Those two teams we get to play three more times. So
To me, we're watching them play, and I'm thinking if Jets were against someone else right now, they'd be rocked. If Patriots were against someone else right now, they'd be rocked. But they just line up nicely with each other to create a close game that, you know, Jets ultimately lose in. We've talked about it on the show, but this whole Jets living in the past thing with, you know, remembering how good Rodgers used to be and remembering how
So
good
was
Devontae
Devontae.
used to be. Yeah, I mean,
I
it's,
don't
it's
think
all just living in the
17.
past.
I don't think. Look, listen. The decline of Aaron Rodgers is way more like apparent than Devontae's. What I'm saying is, this is a what haven't you done for me lately league. He may leave and go to someone else that's a contender. Someone like the Texans right now, who are down Nico Collins and again maybe down Diggs. They haven't said what that injury is yet, but
Yeah,
he got
didn't look
X-rayed
good.
yesterday. He got X-rayed yesterday, and they haven't reported it yet. Which usually means if they haven't reported it by Monday, he's going to get in a second opinion. Why is he going to get a second opinion, G? What happened to him? So a team like the Texans, who are going to be in deep shit if they don't have, you know, those two receivers moving forward, they're going to need somebody. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move, the Jets suck, and they don't just suck on the field. They don't just suck in the quarterback position. They don't just suck as head coaches. They suck as an administration. And to kind of, cover their mistakes, they may want to dump Devontae so that they can go get some more picks for next year, because I'm not going to be surprised, and I don't think you will either, if Rodgers is done after this season, seeing all the way that the things have been going all along this season. And
I really don't want him to be done, because I don't want Jets in the hut for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't want him to be done, because we're going to be right there with Jets.
Like they know which one is good to pick. I mean, they had a shot to get a bunch of them over the last 10 years, and they didn't get one. So, I mean, embarrassing right now that I really, really am glad that we get to play him twice a year.
So, I guess we might as well get to the Raiders game. The funny thing is, right when the game started, I had to put the game on pause because I literally had to go to a car fire to report with the fire company there. And, the car fire actually was less of a fire, or a trash fire, than I saw out of the Raiders with the Chiefs. I had much more fun dealing with the car turned over on 104 than I did with,
It probably
with the
looked
game.
a lot of like what your organization is.
Yeah,
like
smashed up, limping, it was great. It was great. I felt great. I kind of came back and was disappointed that my wife put the game on pause, because at least if I could have come back like 40 minutes into the game, I could have missed, what happened for those first 40 minutes.
Well,
it was pretty bad.
Sucks too, and you guys will have the battle of the 2 win teams next week, or they might have 3. I don't know.
So so getting into the game once again, we come out, even the announcers talk about scripted plays, blah blah blah. Once again, we come out and we don't look that bad. We look okay. Minshew had some pretty good passes under pressure. He was much more responsible with the ball. He wasn't, making dumb decisions. He was making the right decisions. He was using his check downs or whatever else, so that's all great. Mahomes is always going to be Mahomes. I mean, we had pressure on him, but he doesn't care if you put pressure on him. I mean, it doesn't matter to him whatsoever. It's just that if you put pressure on him, then great. He gets to do a cooler move than the play actually called for. So I'm not really mad about that. Tyree Wilson, for once, actually his name was called as he did something. I mean, we didn't hear his name for the rest of the game, but it was nice to hear his name called for doing something. The way he was celebrating, it was like he does this all the time or something. I mean, he's one of the worst draft picks we've had, considering how much faith we had in him. Just completely, doesn't work out. So then after we looked good for a while, we went back to our failed run game against what are they? I think they're ranked 4th in run defense. KC is. So we went to our failed run game with our failed offensive coordinator, and of course got nowhere with that whatsoever. And then we give the Chiefs another 2 minutes to score before the half. You do not win a game by giving the Chiefs another go at it and give them 2 minutes to score on you. Or 13 seconds. Like, you're not going to win a game giving that over to the Chiefs. And it's funny because I'm glad that at least what we can do is we can help everyone break their records. So, we help Mahomes get to his record. And then, of course, the biggest record that you just love to hear the announcers announce is that Andy Reid has more wins in Allegiant Stadium than the Raiders do. That's just great. I'm so glad that we can have the coach of KC having more wins in our stadium than the Raiders do in our stadium. These are the kind of stats and records that we're giving everybody. The stadium, of course.
Super Bowl record or the Super Bowl win is a part of that too. Then it has to be. Yeah.
It was in our stadium.
Jeez, that's so bad.
So our biggest, rivalry team has more wins in our own stadium than we do. And you can see it. You can see how much red was in they said 50-50. That was generous. That was not a 50-50 split of red and black. That was not a 50-50 split. They were just trying to make us feel better. That was in no way 50-50.
Kermit,
that was entertaining. Yeah. Yeah. But, maybe we should win a game before we start making fun of Mahomes. Maybe we should, win a game, because all it does is, we definitely want to, poke Mahomes. That's what we need. Let's piss them off. That's a great idea. That'll really help us beat the Chiefs.
I will say this. One of the great things about the Raiders, especially with 98, is he pisses Mahomes off quite a bit. Gets that little tap in on him, gets that last little brush up against him, and Mahomes hates it. He really does, and I'm interested to see if other teams are going to pick up on that, because it's something that Crosby has certainly highlighted for defenders, that maybe because he's that elite superstar player, that he's able to get away with some of the stuff that he's doing to him. But it seems to me that it is getting a little bit under his skin, even though obviously the Chiefs are coming out on top. But it's fun to watch him be pissed off. I hope that we can do that to him when he comes in here in a couple of weeks. But yeah, he's such a bitch.
The Chiefs were playing extremely that. That was a winnable game for us. One of the things I want to focus on, pretty much two moments or two drives out of the
talked about, right?
An entire game. Yeah, but it's even beyond that. Okay. So we get a great stop on Kansas City, our first position in the third. We get a return of 17. We got a penalty on top of that. So we're now on the 32. Okay. So we put Ritter in for a second, which, obviously was something going on with Minshew. That's why we threw Ritter in there. But of course, while Ritter's in there, he messes up on a silent count, because we have to do a silent count in our stadium at home. Yeah. We get a penalty doing a silent count. So that's one of the big things I'd like to highlight moving through this. But so, okay, we get a false start. They put Minshew back in there again. So then Minshew gives us another false start. So we went from a 3rd and 2 to now a 3rd and 7 for that false start. So we go to our run game. We only gain 3. Okay. We don't convert. It's over. We got lucky on a defensive holding play that kept us alive. So they are now trying to help us score at this point and keeping us in the game. So now we're on the 16. We do a one play. We get knocked back to the 20. So we're still playing against ourselves. Then we try to run on a 2nd and 14 play. We try to run. Now, Madison had 15 yards the entire game. And we're going to try to run on a 2nd and 14. So, of course, that doesn't work. So now we're at 3rd and 9. So Myers, nice catch. He gives us 11. So now we're back to 1st and goal. Awesome. Cool. We can still pull this off. We do another run to lose yardage again. We do a pass to gain a yard. So now we're 3rd and goal at this point. So that doesn't go. So then Minshew is sacked to follow up with that. Okay. And while he's being sacked, we also managed to get a penalty for illegal formation. It wasn't enough to just take the sack. We have to get penalties as well. So now, of course, we don't go for it. We kick it again. We're down 17-13. It should have been a tie game at that point. We should have obviously scored. We should have moved ahead. And then, of course, our defense, following that, our defense gets the interception. Now we're right in red zone territory. So we have a half yard to get a touchdown with our run game. Mr. Run Game, Mr. Offensive Coordinator, he's so good at the run plays, blah, blah, blah. We cannot get half a yard. We have all of our missed opportunities. Now, that would have put us...
on that run, on that
correct.
Series too, right? Yeah.
That would have put us at 21-17 going into the 4th. Yeah. To me, that sums up the entire Raiders experience, the entire what's going on with Getsy right now. Is we have 2 opportunities back-to-back to take that game over and go into the 4th ahead. Yep. Both of them messed up by horrible play calling and horrible action of our players. Minshew did not have a horrible game. He's still a QB2. He's always going to be a QB2. His not horrible game does not mean he's playing like an amazing quarterback. It means at least he didn't play like a QB3. I mean, but okay, he played as a good QB2. But those mistakes that are made, the offensive play calling is just killing us. And like I said before, I said it was starting to turn on AP. That's exactly what's happening now. Is because he's not firing Getsy, everyone is now turning to AP is not our head coach. He can't handle being a head coach. He's not going to get the job done. Getsy is going to get AP ousted. That's he's got to fire him. You cannot keep doing this. And in discussing Getsy's amazing, strategy, what's buzzing around right now is, of course, we got Munford, our offensive tackle, winds up in a wide receiver spot on 2nd and 3 when we're down points. Yeah. We have our offensive tackle, and then, of course, Minshew fumbles the ball and gives them the ball. So we set up on a 2nd and 3. We put our offensive tackle into a wide receiver spot, and then Minshew fumbles the ball and just throws it to the other team. That's the level that we are at right now. And how there is, immediately after that game, how Getsy is fired did not appear on the news, I have no clue. But AP is ruining all the progress that he made with the fans and the support that he got from the fans and from Raider Nation. He's blowing all that because you're not living up to what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to hold players accountable. You said you were going to hold coaches accountable. You didn't mind rolling heads, Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. blah, 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 Mr. NWA, and then you come in here and this guy still has a job. Well, you can't do that.
I agree with all of it, on especially the Getsy points, but they're never going to fire a coach like him in this first season without a quarterback that was of his liking and get away with it. They're just not. And I know that you are way more in touch with Raiders fans, and I'm sure that they're sick and tired of it, but without the quarterback, we go over this time and time again. And I know that, it's you don't have one, so they got to figure it out. And they bring in this other kid last week who didn't see much of the field. You still have Minshew making the horrible mistakes that he continues to make. I'm sorry, an NFL offense that has 1st and goal from the freaking 1, I don't care who your offense coordinator is, you better have a fucking play that can get you.
Pick up the guy and toss him in there.
They were going backwards. I mean, the Bills were lucky. They were down at the goal line twice in that game. We had that snap that went back to almost midfield, and they also stuffed them on 4th and goal. So, that's the difference between a lot of good teams and bad teams. It's right there. You know what I mean? The Chiefs are blessed. How many times over the years have you played them where you were down in the red zone like that and they get the interception or they get the fumble or they get the sack or they make you kick the field goal? That's what the Patriots did to everybody forever. That's what the Chiefs have been doing to teams for the last couple of years. And until you can get over the hump and take advantage of a golden opportunity like that, you're going to be in the basement and you're going to have people wanting the coach's head and you're going to, have people bitching about the quarterback because a good quarterback gets you in the end zone on a play like that. If it's 1st and goal from the 1, I think I could ask you right now what the Bills would do. They would line up 17 and they would run him right in. They wouldn't even fuck around with giving the ball to anybody else. And to have that in your back pocket all the time is such an advantage. And until you guys get a quarterback that you can rely on like that, it's going to be tough sledding in all situations.
I'm not calling for AP's job at this point. I'm calling for offensive coordinator's job at this point. When the nation said we want AP, anyone that was reasonable and logical, certainly we talked about it on this show, you're not picking up an offensive genius. You're not picking up even a defensive genius. You're not picking up an X's and O's guy, blah, 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 with AP. You are picking up a culture. You're picking up a hype man. You're picking up that guy that's going to, make people want to go to war for him. That's what you're picking up. Everything else, those X's and O's, are on somebody else. It's on Patrick Graham, for defense. It's on Getsy for offense. You need to give AP a good offensive coordinator. He is not. It'd be like McDermott with a horrible offensive coordinator. McDermott's not running an offense. That's not where his skill is. He needs to have that offensive coordinator. And we did not feel
like your guy. He's a lot like your
Yes.
guy. And if he didn't have 17, I guarantee with the decision making that he's made and in the approach that he has, he would have been gone a long time ago. Josh has saved his ass and has certainly been the number one reason why he's gotten to stick around here. I'm sorry, it's a fact. And the year that we went to the playoffs, when we had Tyrod Taylor, the McDermott's first year, it was all about defense, and we got our asses kicked in a lot of games that year, and it was great for us to break the drought and everything else. But at the end of the day, the reason why these coaches have success is because, offensive coordinators included, is because of how well those quarterbacks that they coached did and got them into those positions. Look Shanahan, that's coaching out in San Francisco. He doesn't go out there without having experience with great quarterbacks throughout his career. I can go down the list, okay? Andy Reid didn't win until he got Mahomes. He may have gotten to the Super Bowl a couple times, but he didn't win until he got Mahomes, right? Andy Reid was an offensive genius from who? From Walsh, like who had Montana. So let's not pretend like these guys were great all by themselves. They got great because of great players. And, it was a mix of what they had, right? It was just a big mix. So a guy like Belichick wasn't a great offensive guy, but like you said, you have to have a good offensive coordinator to click with your quarterback, and that's until that happens out in Las Vegas, you guys are going to be in QB purgatory forever.
I will say I did like the Raiders defense. I thought we're finally playing very physically, which is what I expect to see out of a Raiders defense. Why we can't play that way, I understand we have a special hate for KC. I understand that. But we need to be playing every single team like we hate them, because that defense that we watched, that's what I've been expecting to see out of Vegas. And I feel like we would get that defense if our offense was producing and we had that team effort. Then we would see that out of our defense. But our it's kind of hard for our defense to be motivated when they set you up, perfect for a score. They set you up in the 32, and you can't score.
Last week too, that Steelers game. I mean, you got turnovers for them down in the red zone, and they didn't capitalize. I couldn't imagine how frustrating it must be for you as a fan. Imagine being Crosby, or imagine being some of those guys on that defense who every time they come off the field, they're like, well, they ain't going to do shit, so...
Nope. Yeah, the defense has to start getting all of our touchdowns, too, because our offense ain't going to do it.
Maybe Nate was right.
Maybe. Yeah. Lots of people are mad about the field goal decision from AP. We did the field goal instead of going for the 2 points. I'm not mad about that. I mean, the way that we're playing, I'm not trusting that that we're gonna do that. So I don't mind the field goal decision there. I think that the field goal was a good decision there. So I don't blame him for that. Turnovers is the easiest way to put it. I mean, they announced it during the game. We've given up 66 points in turnovers. We only score 19 points a game. So we've given up 66 points in turnovers. I mean, you cannot have a successful team if that's what you're doing. It's impossible for us to succeed. Even in a game against our biggest rival, a really important game for us to win, when they handed us the game twice to get ahead. And then when we were out of it, they pulled a penalty to keep us in it to score a touchdown. We still cannot score. There needs to be someone held accountable at this point. We are way too many games in the season with the same thing happening. The whole speech of, we just got to do what we got to do every game. We're past that. That's after 3 games of nothing. We can get away with that. Where we're at right now, some head has to roll. Something has to be changed about this team. Unless the goal is to purposely tank and then get rid of Getsy next year, get ourselves a quarterback and a new offensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. If that's the plan, okay. But AP is losing all the support that he had because what is looking like is a really weak head coach that can't make the tough decision when he's got to make it, which is going to Davis and saying, I'm not working with this guy anymore. Or I can't do this anymore. He needs to go. and he needs to make that decision because Davis ain't going to make that decision. He's going to let Tom do it or AP do it, or maybe Brady. Maybe now that Brady has some influence, maybe Brady can come in and say, "Get the hell rid of this guy." But there needs to be something for your fan base to show them that people are being held accountable for this product that you are putting out there on the field. And we're just getting the same kind of McDaniels loser speech that we've been having for 2 years every single game. And AP is not looking like AP anymore. He's not looking like that, badass hat backwards Compton blah 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 kind of guy anymore. Now it's just, yeah, we're sorry, we're not good, we're sorry.
I'm telling
it's just
you,
not
if you
going to
go
work.
down to Cincinnati and you lay an egg and you look bad, I wouldn't be surprised if Getsy's gone after that game.
We said by November is on the show. We said by November.
And if they hear you up there in section 506 up in the nosebleeds screaming, "Get rid of Getsky," and we'll know that you were responsible for it. Look, it's obvious. It's obvious that something needs to change, and it's also obvious that you are in the hunt for a quarterback. We've already seen Davis hanging around with Dion and his kid. We already know that they are actively, but not actively, going after that guy. So the less wins, the better for you right now. I hate to say it. Your division is already lost, and the wild cards are going to be, few and far between, simply because you got teams like Pittsburgh who are playing good that nobody anticipated. Baltimore obviously is tough, and so on. So I don't know. I don't see much happening down the road for you guys. But then you go into Cincinnati and you win, and everybody's like, "Well, maybe you should get it. Give them another try." Gee, when you guys have your bye week? When is the Raiders' bye week? Because I wouldn't be surprised if they canned him the week prior. So when is it?
That's coming up. Let's see.
So it might be the
by week 11. Yeah. By week 11. So that's coming up for us.
Who you got after Cincinnati?
After Cincinnati,
I really feel like
before the that's the
week.
game that I was worried about. We got Miami right after the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling like,
and then we're going back into Denver, and then we're playing Kansas City again. Like we beginning, early this season, we were saying that after Baltimore, with that Carolina, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh, LA little stretch, we had to pick up our wins there, going into our later season, going into the Miami, Denver again, Kansas, Tampa, Atlanta, and we of course going to do that. So, I'll be at the Cincinnati game here next week. Then we got our bye week on week 10, and then we're playing and then we're 11.
Yeah, this dude's job is on the line. If they lose in Cincy, I guarantee you heard it here first. They're going to can Getsy, and then obviously, it'll give somebody a shot in the organization to run the offense for a couple of weeks, and then, obviously this is a huge offseason for you guys, which you're already shaking your head, but you knew that going into it, it was going to be tough, especially if you started off.
If I had more faith in the decision making, I'd feel better about going into the offseason. But the Raiders' experience has just been, so what? Because we're going to make the same horrible decisions next year. So who cares? Who cares?
Seems like they are hell sent on getting Sanders to play for you guys. Maybe they will, put together some trade package to get him. I don't know, but obviously,
I think right now we're like pick 8 in the draft. If it were to end, I think we're around pick 8. Which I don't know if that's going to give us Sanders.
There's a lot of bad teams that need quarterbacks. So, obviously you guys are at the top of that list. So I wouldn't be surprised if your owner makes a move that people won't like, but he's going to make a move to try to get up there to get that kid. And obviously it's
I honestly see the Panthers scooping him up next draft before we have a chance at it. I can see the Panthers scooping him up.
Yeah, but if you tie the Panthers, if you tie them, they got the head-to-head to you, so you would get the better draft pick. So just keep keep track with the Carolina Panthers this year, and you guys will be fine when it comes to draft time.
Just got to make sure that we lose all those games. The only reason I'm still going to the Cincinnati game is because at least it's a fun experience with my
It's a
wife
trip,
to
man.
go to the game.
You guys will have a blast.
Yeah, but
It'll be
it's
beautiful.
you know it makes it really hard to kind of walk into that stadium, with your head down, like here we go again.
There'll be a ton of Raiders fans there. There'll be a ton
There
of
will be.
Raiders fans there.
Yeah, we can all hold each other.
Cincinnati
and cry.
hates the Raiders. You guys will not be well
Yep.
received, but it'll be
Nope.
fun for you. Both
It'll
teams
be a
stink
fun
this year,
experience.
man. Both teams stink, so at the very least, you will have a good game to watch. Now watch Burrow go out there and light you up for 400.
Watch him do it.
touchdowns. Oh, my
Yep,
God.
yep.
Puke
Watch him
all
do
over
it.
Yourself.
Yeah, maybe I'll get to see Ritter out there for the first time.
No.
So maybe I'll get to see what he has to offer.
Well,
I
just
was
so you
kind
know-
of expect Minshew's like being very careful not to mess up so bad that he gets taken out at this point. So he's just kind of making safe passes, but that ain't gonna last.
I know we talked a little bit about your trip, and I told you the places that you need to go, the zoo, the casino. Kentucky's right on the other side of those bridges, buddy, and I know you're Mr. Whiskey, so you could go
I
drown
like
your
Kentucky. I've
sorrows.
been to Kentucky a
You
bunch
could
of times.
definitely
Yeah.
go and drown your sorrows on the other side of the
Just
bridge
go
of that
tour.
stadium. No, I mean, I'm telling you, buddy, you're going to love it. Great food, great atmosphere. You're going to have some nice weather. Screw the football game. Enjoy all the other stuff that you get to do.
So the Chiefs, of course, they pick up a new weapon, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Wasn't really utilized that much against us yet, but it's new. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see, where that goes. Kelsey was back to being Kelsey that game, so they didn't really need to utilize Hopkins. But
Yeah, but right there. That's the Amari Cooper, that's the Diggs effect. When you have a top-notch receiver, your defense needs to be aware of it, and I guarantee you it provided Kelsey with some one-on-one opportunities, and he took advantage of it. He's going to matter. They're coming in here in a couple weeks. There's no love lost with Hopkins and Bills fans. He had that, Hail Mary against us a couple years ago. He's older, and his knee's a little banged up still. That's something people aren't talking about. But, down the road here, he's going to be instrumental in what they're trying to do. Obviously, they gave up some shit to get him, so I don't know about you, but I think that there's still a couple more players away than just, an older Hopkins, but we'll see. They're undefeated.
Undefeated
and
so
there's
far.
still some players away, but
Yeah,
they got to play
undefeated
some
so
tougher
far.
teams down the road, and we know what happens in the playoffs. So I'm excited about the way things are going, and if they're obviously going to be someone that we're going to have to take down in order to get to where we need to go, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Watching other games around our division, Chargers and Broncos, both are looking better than we're looking. Chargers especially, I was worried about the Chargers when they got the coach that I wanted, so I was kind of worried about all that.
Yeah.
They're
Jets.
starting to wake up a little bit when they start getting some more players. I think they're going to be. I think our division is going to get tougher. We got to get better somehow.
That might be another team that the Jets may want to talk to about getting some receiver. Chargers need a guy. Devontae going there wouldn't surprise me if they ultimately end up making a move, but we'll see. Jets play the Texans on Thursday night, so for once I might actually cheer for the Jets, but I also love watching them crash and burn, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to cheer for the Jets. I don't
you're
know
right.
if you'll be.
Fuck them.
I don't think you'll. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be
Fuck
able
them.
to physically raise your arm to do that. I don't think
No,
about
they're
that.
garbage.
So, Raider Nation, in conclusion, we're fucked. I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. I guess, hope that the other team's bus crashes on the way to the game. I don't know what else we're going to do.
Boy, their backups will probably come in and beat you anyway.
Luckily, we had this high school team, and they were free, so we just said, "Hey, come on down and play us." Like, yeah, it's great. We have a couple of things that work and could be better that that aren't. I don't think that we are as bad as our record is as far as potential for who we have. I think that our potential is much better than our record, but I think that everything gets slowed down by Getsy. I think that No matter what we do, it's get slowed down by the kind of play caller that can't get you half a yard into an end zone.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. Myers is back. Myers looked phenomenal out there.
But especially on that first drive.
He looked phenomenal out there. I like Tucker a lot too. Great to see Tucker out there. I like him a lot. I feel even we could get a better performance out of Minshew, I feel, than we do right now. I think that Getsy is the reason why the team's potential does not match our record. Now, are we, a playoff Super Bowl team right now? No, it'd be ridiculous to say that we are. But I think that we are in the hunt team. I feel we're a wild cardish sort of team with the talent that we have, especially before we got rid of Devontae too. I mean, but it doesn't matter who we have in there. It's not being utilized. Unless we have someone like Brady that comes in and just tells the coach, shut up, I got this, then, it's just not going to work. We need better offensive scheming, and we need to utilize the players that we have. We need to maximize the skill that we have. We need to, play into the strengths that we have, and none of that is happening. We're doing the same exact plays over and over again. Our playbook is, 2 pages. It's just not working. And I don't mind a simple playbook, especially when you have someone like Minshew behind there, but it at least has to work. It has to make sense. The plays have to gel. There has to be a plan going through the game. There has to be adjustments made in that second half. All of those things need to happen. And all we have is a simple playbook, no adjustment, no motivation from our players. Obviously, they don't like, playing at this point. I mean, it's funny, in the beginning of the season, it was cigars and, great, we got AP and, we're going to roll with this. And that's not what's happening. I think that it's almost like the players are also losing faith in AP because AP is not proving that he's a leader. A leader calls people out that are causing a problem. A leader cuts the head off of Getsy. That's what that aggressive leader is supposed to do for us and who AP said he was. And, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't know if AP has already gone to Davis and gone to Tom and said, hey, he needs to be gone. We just don't hear about that. That might be happening, I suppose. But listening to AP's press conferences, at this point, I'm expecting him to start throwing a little bit of shade that way to play calling, just especially because of his personality.
He won't though.
And that's not happening.
They're not going to bust guys like that. And obviously in the position that they're in with no quarterback and nothing in sight of being, a positive season, he's not going to bust guys like that. Now he might have something to say when he's gone, but I just feel like you're right. We don't know what goes on between closed doors, and I'm sure it ain't pretty. But at the end of the day, something's got to change, and something's got to change soon.
I mean, I can guarantee you that Davis is getting on, people's cases because we've, had little glimpses of when Davis is flipping out on, going to his home games and being embarrassed in his stadium. He doesn't take that well. So I guarantee that he's getting on people, behind those closed doors. But like I said, as a fan base, we need to see the result of that. Having the theory that behind the scenes, these things are happening, that doesn't help your fan base. I mean, what helps a fan base is give us some kind of sign that you're recognizing the problem and you're doing something to fix and work on that. And so far at this point in the season, we haven't had those signs. And I feel that by week 9 here, we should have, signs that something is being done about this team. I'd even have more respect for you if you just came out and said, hey guys, we're tanking the season just so everybody knows. Great, cool. At least then I can just chill out and not worry about it.
Yeah, but they'll never do that. They're never going to.
No, of course they won't. But don't tell me that we have a commitment to excellence and this is the product that we're putting out. It's just the two things just don't gel. I mean, right now you have fans that are fans because I was a Raiders fan 10 years ago. You don't have fans that are fans because I really like the Raiders right now. And that's a bad thing for your fan base. I mean, if I were to come in to football now at age 9 or whatever, I'm not watching the Raiders mentality and the culture of their team and being like, cool, I'm going to be a Raiders fan. That's not what I'm doing. So you got to give your fan base something. I mean, you kicked us out of our home. You put us in Vegas with champagne flights. Now you got rid of the quarterback that I was never a huge fan, but they all liked with Carr. You gave us horrible coaches. You've given us horrible coordinators. I mean, what else are you going to do to your fan base? I mean, the whole culture has changed. It's just you gotta give us something as fans. You gotta give us something. You really do. But we'll see. At least, like I said, next week I'll be at the game. That'll be fun to be at the game. Maybe we'll get lucky and I'll get to be there for a win. That would be great. But it's nothing that I'm expecting. I want to see Ritter out there. I don't think that there is a downside to having Ritter play. Give him the first quarter or the second quarter. I don't think there's a downside to that. We know where the ceiling is on Minshew, and pretty much the Chiefs game, that's his ceiling. He only had one fumble. And he didn't have any, interceptions and, did little passes. That's his ceiling. That was Minshew at his best. We got to watch it. So at this point, put Ritter in and let's see what goes on there. I mean, I don't think that we lose. Let's see. Anything? I don't think we got anything really, really big coming up here for news. You any hot bets that you're planning on doing? I'm actually not betting this week because I'll be at the game.
A lot of baseball. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, that's been my main focus. So, hoping tonight the Yankees can bounce back and get back into the series, and that's pretty much been it. A couple live ones here and there, comebacks and such. I was on the Bears yesterday, and unfortunately that Hail Mary ruined any chances of winning some scratch there. But
that was a great thing to watch, though.
It's fun.
It was great to watch. If you're not the Bears, then that was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, and if you're a Jaden Daniels fan like I know you are, it had to be. So that was pretty cool. But
yeah, I like watching all the quarterbacks that we missed out on do well. It really helps while I'm watching the Raiders play. You
missed out on them. He just didn't fall to you, and you didn't go and get them.
It really helps.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to this week. Again, anytime the Dolphins come to town, people are going to be excited, and we will be, to get to 7-2 and continue to move forward.
Well, thanks for joining us. You can check out our other shows on the YouTube channel. We are also available wherever you get your podcasts, including Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeart, all those great spots. Give us a like. You can find us on Twitter. Let us know that you're listening. Next week, I'm going to be at the Cincinnati game. We're also going to have Raider James on for our show that week, so we'll have a guest on there, and we'll talk about what the heck happened. We'll have two games to talk about between your rivalry game, and I always love talking about the game when I was at the game watching it, because you get a whole different kind of atmosphere and a whole different kind of feeling into the game after that. So I always like doing the show after I've been to the game. So we will see you guys next week.